PG Lovelies, and welcome back to another one of our Diversity Geek Discusses. This week, Diversity Geek discusses Rent, in honor of the 20th anniversary tour that we happen to be so lucky enough to be able to see this week. We wanted to highlight this amazing piece of art.
So, there are a lot of anniversaries at this time, and one is their 20th anniversary, and it is coming up on June 12th, the second anniversary of a very life-changing event, the shootings at Pulse here in Orlando, and we are from Orlando, and my Diversity Geek team and I were blessed to be able to help and be on ground to do what we could post-event, and we just really feel that it's important to do what we can to highlight the positive message as much as we can, and to let everyone know that there's a lot of love out here and a lot of hope. And one of the reasons that we have that is because the amazing Jonathan Larson, the composer and playwright of this groundbreaking, bold, socially challenging, and spiritually uplifting pieces of art, gave the world this gift known as Rent.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's a little crazy to think that it's been a little over 20 years that we've had this majorly influential, impactful, I'd say it's more than a musical, it's a masterpiece that has affected quite a few generations. And I think it's definitely fitting, it being June and Pride Month, that we celebrate and embrace our diversity and empower ourselves. And I think that that's ultimately what the message of Rent is. So after watching the play, it's a little different than the movie, and both are amazing, but I do have to say that the play is definitely a bit more emotional. Because one, you're right in front of these actors, and you can feel this energy. And the other part of it is there are some parts that are done differently for the movie, in the sake of being a movie, and in the play are a lot more real and emotional. I don't know if you want to touch on some of your favorite parts that you feel are really emotionally impactful for you.
So being in that theater was not like watching a musical. It was participating in the phenomenon known as Rent. The cast, we realize it's scripted, but at the same time there's some flexibility in the movement, but they bring us into the experience. They ask us to move. I love that part. And I've never been in a theater or at a musical where the show leads out with the cast addressing you personally. It leads out with a discussion where they are talking to you face to face, one to one, and saying, this is what we're discussing today. This is where we are. This is the world we're existing in.
Yeah, and it's actually, it continues throughout the play. As a theater nerd myself, I found the most intriguing part of that interaction with the audience to be the very beginning and very end, where the actors are just on stage and chilling. There's no formal introduction of them getting on stage. It's not very meticulous, like theater nerds have come to know that theater can tend to be very meticulous on Broadway. And at the end of the musical, it's kind of a very unceremonious end where it just ends and everyone starts packing up, which is something else that's not typical.
Yeah, and to have the the musicians on stage.
Yes, the musicians on stage as a part of the story, and I think that all ties together to the brilliance of Jonathan Larson and the impact he wanted to really
emote.
Yeah, to really emote the impact that he wanted it to have on the audience. The inclusion that you feel. I think the whole point of Rent is to have that connection, to understand that this was the 90s when AIDS and HIV were so scary, and at the time being anything but the norm was life-threatening. And this play is all about, like I said, empowerment, and inclusiveness, and I think that that's something that actually scripted out as a play, it does, that I never realized it did as much until I saw it as a play, and that's just makes it all the more brilliant to me.
I was explaining earlier, we were discussing about the lighting, and there's a beyond poignant, I'm not sure I have words to explain the emotional impact. So there's a scene in the movie where the cast comes together in a support group for those who are HIV positive, are dealing with an AIDS complex disease, or perhaps have a family member or a friend dealing with that. And in the movie, they use lighting, and they will fade out characters to show you the reality of death at that time. Because remember, this is a time where they had just, developed the medications, the regimens, the cocktails that could reduce the impact of the virus, but not at that time, not eradicate, nor does it do that now. However, we're getting there. Strides are being made, okay? Nor could it reduce the physical influences of the disease. And we watch in the film the characters being faded out to represent their deaths. And in the theater, when we watch that scene, and we are hearing them sing, "Will I Still Have My Dignity?" I cannot express to you what I felt, how personally shifted I was. I was weeping, and I weep. I'm a crier. But I sat there, and you knew I wept. I wept openly.
I brought tissues. I knew.
And I wasn't expecting to do that. I knew I would. But then when they take that scene and they have this song, and the song fades, and they fade through lighting, and then it leads into the song that everyone knows Rent for, and how they come together and they stand together to sing
Seasons of Love.
Seasons of Love.
I think the way that they show the passing and mortality in the play is also very brilliant. There's the exiting through the door, there's the exiting off the stage, and then there's the lighting. But I have to say, I think the moment that was the most emotional and I think jolting in terms of reminding us of our own humanity and our mortality and the reality of people who still live with this disease. It's one of my favorite lines from Rent in La Vie Boheme, living with not dying from disease, and it's very emotional. And the scene where Angel is taken into the light in the play is very literal. He is taken into a white light, and hearing the entire audience just go completely silent. Then there was no music, there was no sound. It was just silence. That is that moment where you are, at least for me, just have this wave come over you of just feeling your mortality. And I think that's ultimately, again, one of the messages of Rent. While it might be a little more sad, it's still empowering, because the whole, I think, takeaway, at least for us, has always been no day but today. And I think that's ultimately the main message of Rent.
It is the main message of Rent, 100%, because remember that the character Mark is filming the lives and the experiences and the circumstances and the tribulations and the joys of the people around him to create this visual artwork that shows cultural and social paradigm shifting, because it's literally what it does in the 1 year that the musical takes place in. And the one absolute is that at no time, Angel is quite aware of his mortality. He's quite aware that he is living with a disease that will be taking him. He will leave this earth. And you never see Angel fall down. You never see him emotionally rift. You never see him blame it on anyone, chastise anyone, hate anyone, be angered by anything. This is a being of pure light, pure energy, who's giving literally to Collins till the moment he dies with that last smile and leaves the world. And then when they need to come together as a family, who do they reference? Who do they remember? Whose life do they lean on?
Angel. Angel is... It's not even Angel as this human body. It's Angel's energy, Angel's spirit, Angel's light that is this glue. And I think that again, is one of the messages that Rent is trying, not even trying, that has exuded, that when you bring this light to your life, no matter the circumstances that you find yourself in, you will live a life of positivity, because you're going to create that for yourself. And Angel was this glue to his family, and they realized through time that without him they fell apart. But when they brought themselves back together in remembrance of Angel and in honoring his memory, they were able to...
And his living message.
Yeah, they were able to remind themselves of what Angel was.
And what was most important was love. Unconditional, unbridled, absolute, true love. Remember, we live through seasons of our life. We will have struggles, we will have difficulties, we will have joys, we will have regressions and progressions. And it's all a season of our life. But the only way we can live it truly well and know that we have honored this life is to live it through love and with love. And that is the message of Rent. Ultimately, that is the message of Rent. And the final message, and yes, Seasons of Love, and yes, the other songs absolutely, will fill you with so much acceptance of you. I think that the message that was probably the one that's our most important and our take home would be
no day but today. And I think that that's something that the show itself, they understand, as it's what they put on their tour merchandise. And bringing the message of Rent and the relevance of Rent back to us today we're living in a time where things have gotten better. But things are still bad. And people still struggle every single day.
And we have an organization called G7 that just met this past weekend to discuss diversity and inclusion. And unfortunately, yes, we're still in an age where we have to constantly discuss ways for us to become socially equal and to love each other, as I said, unconditionally. And where fear leads to violence, and we've been living with that out in the world, and we want people to remember that this message is not a violent one. This is a message of pure and absolute love and giving and forgiveness and acceptance and willingness to be part of progress and change and improvement, and to be willing to unite and be part of the one humanity that we all belong to.
Definitely. And on a final note, again, it is June. It is Pride Month, and that means it's a month to celebrate and remember everyone in your life, whether it's yourself, your family, your friends, that is a part of the LGBTQA community. And that means not just celebrating our lives now, but honoring the ones that have gotten us to the point of where we can be now. And I thoroughly believe that without Rent and its social influence and impact, we very well may not be where we are today. And I think it's just something to remember. Again, there's no day but today. So be you, love you, and just be love. So I know that was a bit emotional, but we wanted to send out this love because we know that for us and for our community here in Orlando, it is going to be a tough time this week. And we want everyone, not just here in Orlando, to know that we will always be here to offer our unconditional love and support for you. If you ever feel that you're alone, you're not. Just reach out, and we'll be sure to give you a warm embrace with our words. And if that's...
And in loving memory of the 49, we wish you all love, light, happiness, and joy, and know you're here. So, again, love from Diversely Geek, and we'll bid you farewell till our next show, and keep well.